happened here. They want to hide it.
They can't hide it from me. Who are you?
Rachel! What did you see?
This show is unique and it goes very fast. The demands are huge. The demands on this show are very, very big. Things change on the fly all the time.
There's never like an easy set. It's always like everything is like large and complicated and takes a lot of organization by all departments to make that work.
Ever since we got to Metropolis, strange things have been happening to me.
They're trying to tell me something.
I can hear everything that people here say about me. They will never let me forget what I am.
Like father, like son. You're a part of our family. And if you leave, it's gonna hurt us.
This is the Temple of Azarath, which is one of our main locations for all our bad guys.
Let there be light.
This pool is usually full of blood, and there's usually torches on it. It's usually much darker and maybe a little smokier. It's a fun set. It's a little hard to work with all the platforms and stuff.
It's hard to see when we're lighting.
Yeah.
It's very dark.
It's pretty dark.
A lot of stumbling.
I got this.
So it's mostly lit from fire, theoretically, so there's these torches placed around the set, and the special effects people light them up, and they're pretty bright. And then we accented all the torch light with uplight from Titan tubes everywhere. And then the floor is supposed to be like kind of like a lava pit that's underneath the set that glows it. And these are all Titan tubes. This set was a tough one to figure out.
Because the nature of the look of the show involves a lot of practicals, like a lot of practicals in the set design. The sets are big, they're very involved. That it requires a lot of thinking and juggling. And the reason why last year we had 2 gaffers was just simply because, well, A, we want to have Mike because he's way better than me. But for the other reason, I had to facilitate too much offset. I had to be responsible while these guys are working and surveying. I need to make sure that everything was getting done. So I basically had to be their eyes and their voice when they weren't here.
We do a lot of rolling lights and moving lights on our show. So when the camera starts wide and we start coming in an actor, we'll get 2, usually electrics or grips will help us move them. They're on big fat caster wheels. And we have 3 of these, we call them beaker boxes. And then we have larger ones that are like 12 by 20, or usually we'll build multiple of them on big wheels on the highway and we'll drag them around. And then the light fixture changes for each unit, depending on what you want.
Connor, I don't want you to become me. I've already done that. What I want is for you, with all your gifts, to know me.
So this is magic cloth. We also have light grid built for these. And then it's easy to roll. You open it up and then these are filled with Titan tubes. And usually they're good for effects and then good soft key light. And you can just wheel them in. And then they have this solid on the back that boxes it all in really nicely. It's all Velcroed and it looks slick. So if it's a flat surface, instead of doing many lights on a stand, we'll just wheel this into the actor and then we're good to go. Or if we have to push it, it's very useful. So on this show, we shoot Alexa Minis. We carry 6 bodies, so A, B, and C, and then everybody has 2 bodies each because we shoot with on the Ronins. So everyone has a studio body and then a Ronin body. That's always ready to go. And we carry 3 sets of lenses. We carry the Atlas anamorphics, the K35s, and the 2 sets of Summicrons. The question was, how do we figure out which lens to shoot on each set? Is a very complicated answer, and sometimes easier figured out than said. Last year we shot a lot of anamorphic. We were in Gotham, so we thought a grungier, dirty look, and we'll have the anamorphic more like a movie. And then this year we went back to more of the Summicrons, so we shoot the Summicrons a lot. Every time we're in a Star Lab set, which is that big white room we were in, and there's a lot of little practical locations of that, we'll shoot the anamorphics.
Holy shit.
It just feels, that room with its curviness just felt right for an anamorphic view. And then the K35s are our fastest lens. I don't shoot them as much as Dave Green does, but, or Boris. That's Boris's favorite lens, so he always tells me to shoot on them, but I don't do that as much as I should maybe.
I created you for one reason. To see my dream of becoming Superman come true. Please, understand I realized many years ago that I, myself, could never become Superman. So I went about achieving my personal dream the way men have since the beginning of humanity. I had a son.
How would you say that the relationship is between like how you and Terry work together and the programmers and how you like to communicate?
Usually Terry and I will read the script and then we'll talk about the beats with what the lighting needs to dictate. For example, in this RV set, the power goes out. So Terry will build a couple options. Like one option will be everything flickers, or everything flickers but the light up table, or everything off, or everything stutters and then on, and the combinations are endless. So he'll build that with the board op, whoever's there that day, and then he'll show me some options, and then with the director and I will go through and we'll pick which sequence of events we need to be. And then if it's more complicated, I usually allow Terry to figure out all the beats for it's just something that's a little less technical than what I would do, on the day.
My job is to program and control anything electronic that relates to lighting or electricity. So dimmers, LED fixtures, so all the new sky panels and Titan tubes and all that stuff that comes out, anything wireless, lighting gags, all that stuff. It's my job to control it, program it, set it up, and operate it during takes. We operate as a team, and I couldn't do my job without him. That's 100% true. But on a shooting day, he's usually somewhere else prepping our next set or in the studio repairing things. So if there is an issue on a shooting day, it does fall to me to also do troubleshooting and figure it out. So I do have to know all the networking stuff and everything as well. I have to be able to do that on the day, in the moment, when everyone's waiting to roll camera.
Most programmers are used to the one guy, and then he may have somebody who comes in on a day, or they'll just, and I've seen places where they don't have a rigging board out, and they come in, and it's like you got 3 hours or 4 hours of the programmer before call doing it, whereas Kalina can walk in at call time, everything's there for her.
Yeah.
Lot less time, lot less grief on the crew. This is about continuity. I am in charge. I just had a friend who declared himself the defender of the frame as an operator. I'm the defender of the data. So there's always a backup, there's always a way to find the information you need.
Doing this type of show is very different from doing like Heartland or a drama or whatever, because there is so much sci-fi and high tech and stuff that we have to fake that doesn't exist. We have to work a lot with vis effects, we have to work a lot with special effects and stunts and everyone else. We had 2 or 3 shooting units that all had to replicate the exact same look, because we would do the dialogue and then someone else would come in and do the stunt and then someone else would come in for vis effects, and it had to look the same across all 3 units. So record keeping has become a very large part of the job as well for the shooter, especially on the more sci-fi type shows and anything that's doing sort of big magical stuff.
People will use very complex programs, and The gaffer doesn't need to know that this is 2.5 meters across or something. No. He wants to see what's the number, where is it in relation to everything else.
Yeah. And he has to be able to read it without his glasses on.
Glasses on, because we hear about it ad nauseam. And in the dark, and if the color's too dark, oh dear. Yep. Why are you using such dark colors? I can't read this.
Yep. Particularly with some of our more complex sets. So like the Star Lab set is a high-tech lab, right? So there's a lot of lights and stuff going on. He will layer the set. So we have a lit floor, we have the walls, and we have the ceiling. So he will do a layer that is just the lit floor and what everything is in the floor, and then all the walls, and then the ceiling will be a separate layer. So it's not all complicated and compounded onto one map.
Bernard, are you okay? Thank you. Hey. Well, what happened? Whoa. You turned into a gorilla. What?
Here's an example of a map we would give to the gaffer. This one, there were a few corrections that had to be made on the day because things got flipped, as they do. So this is the floor and the walls for the gaffer. Coding, so this is a bicolor LED. If it's multicolored, it's an RGB LED. Those are sky panels over there. And then this would be the floor and the translite, which you see behind us. It speeds everything up on the day.
It's all about speed, and we actually take time off the shooting day. For me, a classic example, back when I was doing rain, we started using wireless and putting wireless in all the heads. And it went from electric running in and dialing it into the DP going up 5, down 5. Can you make it a little bit warmer, a little bit cooler? Okay, that's perfect, lock that in. And this is all going on while we're setting up. And if they look at first take and say, okay, change this, rather than again, somebody running in, you're stopping for 5 minutes, it changes in seconds.
Titan tubes have really changed how we do things like location sets. Anywhere that there's a fluorescent fixture on a location for us, we install Titan tubes, we remove the fluorescence, which means we have complete color temperature control. So if we walk in and they're like, oh, well, we want them to be daylight. No, we don't like daylight. Let's see sodium vapor. Let's see 3200. We don't have to get someone with a ladder to go up and put in a new tube. It's all done here.
So DMX gives you one universe of 512 parameters. We don't call them channels anymore. They're parameters because they can be anything. It can be dimming, color, position, fans, whatever. Yeah. So when you have a universe, and originally there were only like 2 universes. You'd see boards with 2 universes, and that was enough. Now you have one lamp with 64, 128 parameters. 4 of those go into one universe. So
we did the Carnival set on season 2. We had these towers that had to chase rainbow all up them. So if a universe is 512 parameters, we were running 16 full universes just for the towers, not including all the fill light, cover light, clip lights, everything else, because it was a full outdoor carnival set. So we were running somewhere 16, 20 universes for that
these,
show.
And we're actually at 40 in F right now, and we're running about 12 on average here in E.
And we run 2 to 4 on the road.
And I mean, that's not unheard of, and it's normal. And again, we're running up to 8, 10 wireless universes on top of that, depending upon where we are. Locations especially.
Yeah. But it does allow us to do things that we couldn't have done before. You know, for instance, an effect handheld in the middle of a room without any wires, right? Now we have battery, now we have wireless DMX, and we can control that. We can make it flicker, we can change color in the middle of a shot without having to wire up an actor, without having to do any of that stuff. They literally are just handed it. So when I operate during a shooting day, so Nigel would have come in already, he would have made sure that everything in the set is up and functional, operational, doing what it's supposed to do. And then he gets a photo of the map of the set, and he lays in all the fixtures. So each of these squares is a separate fixture that I have direct control over. And I can see in a visual sense what is happening on the set. So if the gaffer comes to me and says, hey, you know, what level is the hallway at? Well, I can see this is the hallway here, so I can say, oh, you know, it's mostly at 100 except for these 2 are 50. He doesn't have to necessarily know the number of every light that's in the set, because they're not labeled, they're on his map. So he won't necessarily tell me put it at 50, he'll say bring it down to half of what it is. So I have to know what it is and I have to bring it down to half. The beautiful thing about this software and the way that Nigel sets everything up for me is that's literally all I have to do when I walk in the door. You know, I can go in the room and make sure they're doing it, and I will because, you know, I care, make sure it's doing the right thing. But it is a visual representation of what is happening in the room without me having even image or even having to be in the room. Anytime you see, like, they walk in and switch on the lights, I'm on a monitor back here, and when I see them reach for the light switch, It's me turning on the lights, it's not them. When we turn on the lights, it's not just that one light coming on, there's the fill light coming on, there's the key light coming on, and it all has to look like it comes on together. So that becomes my job to orchestrate that into a single snap. We start with a base look. So this is the base look we'd have for daylight in the Star Labs. I have a separate look for night, but we're gonna go with day for today. Let's say they called for, they want an emergency scene. They happen a lot in these sets. So we're gonna do a red flashing light on the posts. So we go color red, and then we go back to effects. So when we go into the set, we'll see that playing on the pillars in the room. And then Nigel also does a really handy thing where he does everything starts at the same number. So I have 31, 21, 31, 31, and 3111 will be the same sector stacked on top of each other in the set. And then if I hit clear, now all my changes have been saved into that snapshot. So if we have to recall this or go back to it later, I have it saved. Nigel and I have been working as a team now for several years, 3 years.
It feels forever, but
yeah, it feels longer than that. So after 3 years, we've established a way of working where we don't really have to talk much about it anymore. I know how he's thinking and he knows how I'm thinking, so he sets it up in a way that I'll use and I can walk in and know what he did.
yeah.
This is like a disheveled, rundown, abandoned radio station that, without getting into much detail about the story, exists in two realities. One is sort of our side, the other is a dark side. And so we've shot this already as the our side, sort of like the audience's sort of world that they're sort of grounded in. The art department is redesigning it to be the existing set within the so-called dark side. You know, when we shot it first, it was still run down. They've aged it further. They've opened up some of the ceiling. Part of the story requires us to sort of know that whether we're in the dark side or the our side reality. And so we've applied a bit of a patina with that. So the our side is what we're kind of used to on Titans, which is like a sort of a desaturated, cool tone. The dark side is actually quite a rich tone. In fact, we find ourselves in a somewhat idyllic small town. Our main characters do, but there's something off about it. And so I wanted to have a look that felt idyllic, but felt off. And so we went quite warm with it. I shoot it around 8,000, sometime 9,000 Kelvin, outside daytime, that is. Josh, our DIT, adds, his magic to it. There's certain things he does, but the main thing that he does to it is he kind of pushes in some cyan and sort of green tones into the high and low ends, just to sort of give it that sort of off feeling, which really ends up being quite a striking look. I don't use a lot of fill light. It doesn't mean that I've never used it. Like, funny actually, John Joffin sort of trained Boris and I a little bit in the sense that he always adds a little fill, and we've been doing that. I always like corners like this because you can always hide a light in here. I wanted windows on this side, and then Con says, well, how about high wall glass block windows? Like, great idea. And so that's one way I can get a little bit of, side light into that hallway. You hide things where the camera's not looking. And in fact, the wide shot can turn into a close-up really easily when you have that. So I just wanted a light everywhere. The lighting approach actually is pretty much going to be the same. Just behind me, there's a row of windows that I asked for louvers on those windows and sort of them to be high up at the ceiling, and I bring a 50K soft sun through that. There's another window with similar louvers, and there's a 4K mole beam that pushes through that. And then we have these really cool glass block windows here that I can just take you out there and I can show you how we do that. It's pretty straightforward. There's magic cloth on the windows, and I also put quarter blue on them as well. Because we have about 4 4K bounces in here, and of course, we bounce through diffusions. It warms things up, so we cool it off. So it's going through a bunch of layers. So there's a big giant booklight out here, and then this area we have to totally put solids all the way around it on the top, on the side, so that this doesn't push in. So this becomes its own element that doesn't interfere with that part of the set. And then there's a 4K mole beam, as I mentioned, that just on a little lift here, and it comes in. It's not that high. It's probably. It goes up about 15 feet, I would think, and it comes through here. And I actually had it on a bit of an angle last time, so that the bounce back would be in a direction that I wanted the key to come from. And the rest of it's mostly practicals, and then we use light tiles, which actually is something I recently purchased, which I love. Light tiles with multiple layers of diffusion, that go through another layer of diffusion. The usual gag here on Titans. We just sort of position those light tiles either to the left or right, depending on what we're doing. I had, for one scene, I had a 4x8 light tile in here, right on the ground, so I wouldn't see it through those windows. And then we push that through another layer of magic cloth, and we just sort of stick it underneath these windows so you can't see what it is, and it sort of gives us a side light that way. The reason why I wanted that 4K mobium to come on that angle is that it kind of suggests like the bounce, because the bounce hits the wall there, and then it bounces up this way when people come around the corner, so all the light's coming from the one side. We would either use this 4x8 and recycle it, or we would use a couple of 4x4 light tiles and just sort of create like what would be sort of like, you know, additional bounce that was coming off that 50K soft sign, which actually is quite, it's not actually as bright in here as you'd think it is with the 50K soft sign out there, but it looks pretty, it has a prominence, obviously. All of this, you can see the guts of it now, but all this sort of lights up. You can see that all these elements are backlit elements provided by these LED strips that are in here. It's all tied back to the board. We actually had a lighting cue the previous time when we were in here, which was the hour side, and the characters, like, they actually plug it in with their electric car, and so they actually bring this cable in here and they plug the thing in, the whole place came alive. It seems like a simple thing, but it's a major feat for the art department and the riggers and the wiremen and the board ops. And also, this set was actually brought forward because of a COVID event significantly. So everybody worked so hard to get this ready for us when we last shot it. So everyone just sort of banded together and they brought it together in record time. The crew that we have is, you know, Terry Banting and Fraser Boyle and all the Key Grip and Gaffer and the camera team, the operators. Every department here is fantastic, and they all you know, they all bring it every day. It's a great set, and it's actually one of the most sets I'm most proud of. The important part of your job is to provide an environment where that script and those performances can thrive, because that's what it's all about. It's not about all the other things are just like layers of beauty that you add to it, but that's the most important thing. So that has to survive. You have to be able to provide an environment where that exists, and it has to exist. Otherwise, there's no point to this. Something great will come from it because you love it and you want to make it as good as you can. You know, so that's sort of what I do when I approach.